Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Puri Rajakacharya Ashtotar Sata Shri Srimad A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shyamakund Radha Kund Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Shri Brindavan Dham Ki Jai Shri Navadvip Mayapur Dham Ki Jai Ganga Mayi Ki Jai Jamuna Mayi Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Tulsi Devi Ki Jai Samaveta Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. Hare Krishna, and welcome everyone to Srimad Bhagavatam with His Holiness Jayadvaita Swami. It is Friday, March 7th, 2025, and just a reminder, the United States and other places are switching to daylight saving time this Sunday the 9th here. So For those of you in countries that do not celebrate such a thing, the class will be starting an hour later on Monday. Just a reminder. And today we're starting with Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 12, text number 8. Yes, Kuvera has just offered any benediction to Dhruva Maharaj that he might want. And now we'll hear what Dhruva Maharaj says. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Maitreya Uvacha Saraja Rajena Varaya Chodito Dhruvo Mahabhagavato Mahamati Haro Savavre Chalitang Smriting Yaya Tarat Yayat Nena Durat Yayang Tamaha. The great sage Maitreya continued, My dear Vidura, when thus asked to accept a benediction from Kuvera, the Yaksha Raj, king of the Yakshas, Dhruva Maharaj, that most elevated pure devotee, who was an intelligent and thoughtful king, begged that he might have unflinching faith in and remembrance of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, for thus a person can cross over the ocean of nescience very easily, although it is very difficult for others to cross. According to the opinion of expert followers of Vedic rites, there are different types of benedictions in terms of religiosity, economic development, sense gratification, and liberation. These four principles are known as Chatur Vargas. Of all the Chatur Vargas, the benediction of liberation is considered to be the highest in this material world. To be enabled to cross over material nescience is known as the highest Purushartha, or benediction for the human being. But Dhruva Maharaj wanted a benediction which surpasses even the highest Purushartha, liberation. He wanted the benediction that he might constantly remember the lotus feet of the Lord. This stage of life is called Panchama Purushartha. When a devotee comes to the platform of Panchama Purushartha, simply engaging in devotional service to the Lord, the fourth Purushartha, liberation, becomes very insignificant in his eyes. Srila Prabodhananda Saraswati has stated in this connection that for a devotee, liberation is a hellish condition of life. As for sense gratification, which is available in the heavenly planets, the devotee considers it to be a will-o'-the-wisp, having no value in life. Yogis endeavor to control the senses, but for a devotee, controlling the senses is no difficulty at all. The senses are compared to serpents, but for a devotee, the serpent's poison teeth are broken. Thus, Srila Prabodhananda Saraswati has analyzed all kinds of benedictions available in this world, and he has clearly declared that for a pure devotee, they are all of no significance. Dhruva Maharaj was also a Mahabhagavata, or first-class pure devotee. And his intelligence was very great, Mahamati. Unless one is very intelligent, one cannot take to devotional service or Krishna consciousness. Naturally, anyone who is a first-class devotee must be a first-class intelligent person, and therefore not interested in any kind of benediction within this material world. Dhruva Maharaj was offered a benediction by the king of the kings, Kuvera, the treasurer of the demigods, whose only business is to supply immense riches to persons within this materialistic world, is described as the king of kings because, unless one is blessed by Kuvera, one cannot become a king. The king of kings personally offered Dhruva Maharaj any amount of riches, but he declined to accept them. Therefore, he is described here as Mahamati, very thoughtful or highly intellectual. Om Jnana Timidantasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhistang Stapitam Yena Bhutale Svayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Svapadantikam Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. In this purport, Prabhupada mentions this word Mahamati a couple of times. Greatly intelligent, very thoughtful, highly intellectual, to apply to Dhruva Maharaj, because one would have to be extremely thoughtful to be offered what he's being offered by the person who's offering it, and to basically sidestep it completely. um, what's happened with Dhruva is that he's lost his focus in the course of fighting with the Yakshas, and the whole episode of Swayambhuva Manu approaching him and trying to calm him down, pull him out of that intensely, narrowly focused sphere of activity of just killing Yakshas, killing Yakshas, killing Yakshas. He needed to be shown the bigger picture that he's more accustomed to seeing. He was too focused on the immediate business. We may have similar experience whenever we may overthink a project or a desire or whatever. We lose sight of the ultimate goal. And here in this purport, Prabhupada is talking about the four things that everyone in the material world tends to go for: dharma, artha, kama, and moksha. Any of these, if you really go after them, they can also narrow our focus to the point where we lose sight of the ultimate goal of life. And because we're jiva tattva, we're tatastha shakti, we're on the bank. We can either go one way towards Krishna or the other way, away from Krishna, depending on how the modes grab us and turn us around. We can become very, very narrowly focused, and we need to have our focus pulled back so that we can see again the bigger picture. And because beyond even all of the desires that he's mentioning here, dharma, artha, kama, and moksha, these things that everybody wants so much, the beyond that is devotional service, or as Prabhupada says, or as Dhruva Maharaj says, he just wants to be focused on the lotus feet of the Lord. So this is why the Bhagavatam is showing us Dhruva's example to learn from, because we can take this example of Dhruva as a touchstone in the English sense of the term, that we can test ourselves against his example to see whether we are as Mahamati, are we as thoughtful, as intellectual, as Dhruva Maharaj, or would we simply settle for a cash payout if it was offered? Hare Krishna. Maharaj, we'd love to hear from you if you have some comments here.
Thank you, Kendra Prabhu. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Prachayane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pastrachadeshatare Shri Vanchakolpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda. I've told the story before, but I think it's worth repeating. In Vrindavan, when the Krishna Balaram temple was opened, Srila Prabhupada wanted to have for the guest house a bank branch available so that the guests could have the convenience of a bank. And so a room was made available for that. Those who've been to Prabhupada's house in Vrindavan know that as you come in to the lobby, or the vestibule, you can turn left and you'll be in Prabhupada's library. But that library was originally not part of Prabhupada's quarters. It was, there was a wall separating it, and rather it opened onto the guest house lobby where the reception area is. And so that was a separate room, and it was made available for a bank. And Punjab National Bank was given the concession. And some bankers from that bank came from Mathura for an opening ceremony. And Prabhupada was there. The nattily dressed bankers from Mathura were there. Some devotees were there. And Prabhupada cut the ribbon opening the bank, and then also deposited the first check. And then he sat with the bankers and the devotees present. Remember, Guru Das was there, and quite several devotees. And Prabhupada said to the bankers, began telling the bankers the story of Dhruva Maharaj, how Dhruva Maharaj had, how a yaksha had killed Dhruva Maharaj's brother, and Dhruva Maharaj, in retaliation, began killing the yakshas indiscriminately. Then how Swayambhuva Manu had appeared and asked Dhruva to desist, and which Dhruva did. And then how Kuvera, in being satisfied, offered Dhruva any benediction that he might wish. And then here, as we read, Dhruva Maharaj simply asked that that Kuvera give his blessing, that Dhruva could always be fully engaged in devotional service to Krishna. And then Prabhupada said to the bankers, so you're all representatives of Kuvera. And Prabhupada, in dead seriousness, he said to them, so please give your blessings that I may always be engaged in the service of Krishna. And that's the story. Then Prabhupada glosses a verse here, different benedictions that a devotee finds of no interest. Kaivalyam narakayate tridasapur akasham pushpayate durdantendriya kala sarpa patali prodkata dankstrayate vishvam purnam sukayate Vidi Mahendra Adistrakitayate Yat Karunya Kataksha Vaibhavatam Tam Goda Eva Stumaha. The Kaivalyam Narakayate, as Kendra Prabhu said, for the devotee, this liberation becomes insignificant, or here, hellish, Narakayate. And Tridasapur means the higher planetary systems. It becomes Akasha Pushpayate, meaningless, like a flower in the sky. A flower in the sky is meaningless because there's no such thing. Or Prabhupada gave the example, the horns of a rabbit. It doesn't refer to anything, meaningless. So, with the eggs of a horse. So, Akasha Pushpayate, the so-called heavenly pleasures for a devotee, become meaningless. And Durdan Tendriya Kala Sarpa Patali Pradkata Tangstrayate. The senses are like deadly serpents and very difficult to control the senses. but for a devotee, they become like the serpents that have been defanged. And Vishvam Purnam Sukhayati, the whole world becomes joyful. And the great demigods like Brahma and Indra become as important as insects. Yat karunya kataksha bhavavatam. For someone who's gotten even the slightest sidelong glance from Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, these are this is the benefit. So all of these, so Kuvera is the treasure of the demigods. He can offer the greatest blessings of practically unlimited wealth. But Dhruva Maharaj asks that I just be, please give your blessing that I can just be engaged in the service of Krishna. In a different context, when Uddhava was leaving Vrindavan, then Nanda Maharaj and the Brajbasis prayed to him that, let's see, that wherever we may go by virtue of our previous lives, may our bodies always be engaged in the service of Krishna, may our minds always be focused on Krishna, and may our words always be speak of the glories of Krishna. Let's see. Let's see if I can find that verse. 2 verses, actually. I guess Praveen will have to find them for me, so I could find them, but so start searching and searching. And Uddhava leaving Vrindavan, I think. Taking leave of Nanda Maharaj.
Can we go to the chat, Maharaj, or is there more you wanted?
Yes.
Saraswati Mata says, Pranams Param Puji Maharaj and all the Vaishnavas. I had heard the word mati often growing up, as my mother would ask, mati mar di, meaning, did I kill my intelligence? Hare Krishna. There is one phrase that Prabhupada...
there's the verse coming up. And the next one, there are 2 verses there, Praveen, one before the other. Manaso, there it is, 2 verses. Manaso Vrityo Nasyu Krishna Padam Bujashraya Vacho Vidayanir Nam Nam Kayas Tat Pavanadishu Karma Bir Brahmyamana Nam Yatra Gwapishvarech Chaya Mangala Charitar Danai Ratirna Krishna Ishare. This is Nanda Maharaj and the other cowherd men. Manaso Vrityo Nasyu. May our the business of our minds, our mental functions, Manaso Vritti, be always engaged in taking shelter of Krishna's lotus feet. May our words always chant his names, Vacho, Abhidhayanir, Nam Nam, and Kayastat Pravanadishu, and may our bodies always bow down to Krishna and serve him. And Karma Bir Brahmyamana Nam Yatra Kwapi Ishwarechjaya, wherever we may be made to wander about this world by the will of the Supreme Lord, the Ishvara Ichchaya, Mangala Chaitar Danayar Ratirna Krishna Ishre. Wherever we're made to wander in accordance with the reactions to our past deeds, karma P. May our good works, Mangala Charita, and our yes, our good works, good qualities, dana, whatever. If we've ever done anything pious, if we've ever given any charity, then may we be blessed with love for Lord Krishna. This is Nanda Maharaj speaking. Of course, he's the eternally perfect Father of Krishna, but he's praying for this blessing that if we've ever done anything good, then wherever we may wander because of our karma and because of the will of the Supreme Lord, may we always be engaged in the service of Krishna.
Jai. Thank you, Maharaj. And thank you for being Krishna Prabhu for providing that. Something more in the chat. Oh, so this is from Bhagavatam, 10th canto, chapter 47, the Song of the Bee. I noticed one thing Prabhupada says here, that it says other places as well, Maharaj uses the term will-o'-the-wisp. This is not in so much contemporary usage, but my understanding is it refers to some kind of like swamp gas that becomes luminous at a certain point and looks like something that it's not. And he's describing this as the devotee thinks of all these, well, you mentioned the horse's eggs or the horns of a rabbit, similar to the will-o'-the-wisp idea, something that's just doesn't have any factual existence. And this, it really takes, it seems to me, this quality of Mahamati, this really strong intelligence, because the world is so constructed by the energy of the Lord to really suck you in, to make you think this is really important, really worth pursuing. Hare Krishna. Look, any further comments or questions here? I see none, so we can move on to text 9. I was going to see whether Priti Purnamadavi Devi could read text number 9.
Yes, Prabhuji, just I'll open it 1 minute. तस्य प्रीतेन मनसा तत्त्वैरविरस्ततः पश्यतो अन्तर्दधेसोऽपि स्वपुरं प्रत्यपद्यत. Translation. The son of Ida Vida, Lord Kuver, was very pleased, and happily he gave Dhruv Maharaj the benediction he wanted. Thereafter he disappeared from Dhruva's presence, and Dhruv Maharaj returned to his capital city. Purport. Kuber, who is known as the son of Ida Vida, was very pleased with Dhruv Maharaj because he did not ask him for anything materially enjoyable. Kuber is one of the demigods, so one may put forward the argument, why did Dhruv Maharaj take a benediction from a demigod? The answer is that for a Vaishnava, there is no objection to taking a benediction from a demigod if it is favorable for advancing Krishna consciousness. The gopis, for example, worshipped Katyayani, a demigoddess But the only benediction they wanted from the goddess was to have Krishna as their husband. A Vaishnava is not interested in asking any benediction from the demigods, nor is he interested in asking benedictions from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It is said in the Bhagavatam that liberation can be offered by the Supreme Person, but even if a pure devotee is offered liberation by the Supreme Lord, he refuses to accept it. Dhruv Maharaj did not ask Kuber for transference to the spiritual world, which is called liberation. He simply asked that wherever he would remain, whether in the spiritual or material world, he would always remember the Supreme Personality of Godhead. A Vaishnava is always respectful to everyone. So when Kuber offered him a benediction, he did not refuse it, but he wanted something which would be favorable to his advancement in Krishna consciousness. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. And this reminds me of Sri Bhaktivinoda Thakur's bhajan, where he mentions Marobi Rakho Bijocha Tohar Nitya Das Prati Tuva Adhikar. And he is even ready to be born as an insect. And the Keet Janma Ho Jatha Tuva Das Bahirmukh Brahma Janme Nahi Ash. So a pure devotee, in whichever era it is, their consciousness is uniform. And also, it should remind us, because we have heard this discussion multiple times, where sometimes when we are new in devotional life, we may tend to not show enough respect to the demigods. But I saw in the previous verse how Kuber was worshipped by Kinnars, Yakshas. So there are elevated personalities who can offer benedictions and devotional service, and they are given those high posts because they're qualified for it, and they're also dear to the Lord, that He has entrusted them with those responsibilities. So they are not ordinary personalities. So we should respect them, pay obeisances to them as pure devotees of the Lord, because they are someone dear to the Lord. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Mata. Hare Krishna. Maharaj, would you like to say something here?
Yeah, yes, they're exalted persons. They may not be pure devotees. The various demigods, semigods, because after all, they're still in the material world, but they're exalted, certainly. And it's I found it almost charming, Prabhupada's comment that Dhruv Maharaj was being polite. He could have said to Vera, you can keep your crummy benedictions. All you can give is, paltry, mundane wealth. Why should I be interested in such things? But he was so sushila, so well behaved, that he, as a cultured person, accepted. Yes, it's very kind of you to offer me a benediction. So please give me this benediction, that I can always be engaged in Krishna's service. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. You have a hand up, but we had some comments before getting to the hand. There's a verse here. Muktim dadati karhichit. Sorry, can't read the whole thing. I'm unable to read the whole thing. Those engaged in getting the Lord's favor attain liberation from the Lord very easily, but he does not very easily give the opportunity to render direct service unto him. Yeah, muktim dadati karhichit smana bhakti yogam. And then he goes on to post matsevaya pratitang te salokyadi chatushtayam nicchanti sevaya purnaha kuto nyat kala viplutam. My devotees, who are always satisfied to be engaged in my loving service, are not interested even in the four principles of liberation, salokya, sarupya, samipya, and sarshti, although these are automatically achieved by their service. What then is to be said of such perishable happiness as elevation to the higher planetary systems? Thank you, Praveen Krishna Prabhu. And our hand up is from Saraswati Mata. Please go ahead.
Yes, just a question from this verse. It says that Kuvera gave the benediction, and also at the bottom it said that Dhruva Maharaj did not ask Kuvera for transference to the spiritual world, but that sort of benediction a demigod cannot give anyway. That's something that only Krishna can give. But at any rate, where it says that Kuvera gave the benediction, I'm just a little confused, because Sakam demigods are usually Sakam devotees. They're not pure devotees, as Maharaj clarified. So I'm not sure how they how they could even have the power to give that benediction to a devotee that their mind will always be in samadhi, because that's a benediction they themselves would want. So is it just a case of where he was just being polite? Or is it a case that Kuvera actually had the power to give that benediction? Hare Krishna.
We think of a benediction as sort of a tangible result that someone gave a blessing, which therefore means that the person achieved the desired outcome. We might look toward the English word benediction and its Latin root, bene, I guess dicto or dictio, a benevolent saying, a good word, really, benedicto. So it's not a guarantee like a banker's check or something like that, where it's a sure thing, but it's a good wish or a good word. I'll put in my word. I'll add my support to that. So in that way, it's a blessing. May you achieve this. It's not a guarantee, but it means that the wishes of the benedictor have been offered. And then, of course, according to the importance of the person giving the blessing, those words may come true. The Nalakuvar and Manigriva achieved bodies as trees in the courtyard of Nanda Maharaj by the word of Narada, because Krishna felt obliged to uphold the word of Narad Muni. So in one sense, therefore, that's our process, to pray to the spiritual master, pray to the Vaishnavas. Please give us your blessings. Please give us your good wishes. Because if you give your blessings, then we may hope for blessings from Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Maharaj, and thank you for that question, Saraswati Mata. Would you like to read our next verse, number 10?
All right, text 10. Athaya jata yagnesham kratubhir bhuri dakshinaha dravya kriya devatanam karma phala pradam. Translation. As long as he remained at home, Dhruv Maharaja performed many great ceremonial sacrifices in order to please the enjoyer of all sacrifices, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Prescribed ceremonial sacrifices are especially meant to please Lord Vishnu, who is the objective of all such sacrifices and who awards the resultant benedictions. Purport. In Bhagavad Gita 3.9 it is said, Yagnarta tat karmano nyatra lokoyam karma bandhanaha. One should act or work only in order to please the Supreme Lord. Otherwise one becomes entangled in the resultant reactions. According to the 4 divisions of Varna and Ashram, Kshatriyas and Vaishyas are especially advised to perform great ceremonial sacrifices and to distribute their accumulated money very liberally. Dhruv Maharaja, as a king and ideal Kshatriya, performed many such sacrifices, giving very liberally in charity. Kshatriyas and Vaishyas are supposed to earn their money and accumulate great riches. Sometimes they do it by acting sinfully. Kshatriyas are meant to rule over a country. Dhruva Maharaja, for example, in the course of ruling, had to fight and kill many yakshas. Such action is necessary for Kshatriyas. A Kshatriya should not be a coward, and he should not be non-violent. To rule over the country, he has to act violently. Kshatriyas and Vaishyas are therefore especially advised to give in charity at least 50% of their accumulated wealth. In Bhagavad Gita, it is recommended that even though one enters the renounced order of life, he still cannot give up the performance of yajna, dana, and tapasya. They are never to be given up. Tapasya is meant for the renounced order of life. Those who are retired from worldly activities should perform tapasya, penances, and austerities. Those who are in the material world, the Kshatriyas and Vaishyas, must give charity. Brahmacharis in the beginning of their lives should perform different kinds of yajnas. Would you like me to carry on and finish the next paragraph?
It's a long purport, Maharaj. Would you like to comment, say anything at this point? Or Saraswati Mata, would you like to yourself say something?
No, I'll just finish if Maharaj wants me to.
This is called Dravyamaya Yajna in the 4th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. We find there are different kinds of yajnas to be performed. Nayam, what is that? Lokesmin yagyasya kutonya kurusattama. Without yajna, there's no happiness either in this life or the next. So yajna and dana, as Prabhupada points out here, this is a particularly important item for the householders. The Kshatriyas and Vaishyas are especially mentioned. The the people in the world, the householders, are especially involved in getting money. And we see that people are spending eight or more hours a day in their occupation, which means where's money, where's money, where's money? Spending, the major part of their lives getting money and then also spending money. So one becomes contaminated by that accumulation of wealth. And then it becomes difficult to make any spiritual progress. One becomes attached to that wealth. So the householders are advised to purify their existence by giving charity. And Prabhupada mentions that in practically every one of his books. So especially in the old days, the kings would perform big yajnas and distribute charity lavishly. So this is important. And the charity, of course, people think of charity as opening hospitals and such things, providing shelter for the poor, providing clothes and food. But the charity should be given actually to the, especially the Brahmins and the devotees. Very much in contrast to what we usually think of as charity. Charity should be given to the poor, to the needy. But in the Vedic conception, charity is given to the Brahmins. Charity is given to the Brahmins and the Vaishnavas. Yes. So, true, Raj. But of course, to everyone, when we hear the description when the yajnas were performed, then everyone, according to their position, would be given charity. The Brahmins were preferred, but everybody received something. The Shudras would receive old garments and other things that were sufficient for them. And and the Brahmins also wouldn't take more than they needed. So there'd be essentially a surplus, and what was sometimes called in modern economics a trickle-down effect. The money would gold or what have you would become available everywhere. So in this way, there would be prosperity because of yajna, partly because the demigods would be pleased and they'd provide, and also because in the performance of the yajna, charity would directly be given to the various members of human society. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Maharaj. Mataji, if you'd like to continue.
Dhruva Maharaja, as an ideal king, practically emptied his treasury by giving charity. A king is not meant simply to realize taxes from the citizens and accumulate wealth to spend in sense gratification. World monarchy has failed ever since kings began to satisfy their personal senses with the taxes accumulated from the citizens. Of course, whether the system is monarchy or democracy, the same corruption is still going on. At the present moment, there are different parties in the democratic government, but everyone is busy trying to keep his post or trying to keep his political party in power. The politicians have very little time to think of the welfare of the citizens, whom they oppress with heavy taxes in the form of income tax, sales tax, and many other taxes. People sometimes have 80 to 90% of their income taken away, and these taxes are lavishly spent for the high salaries drawn by the officers and rulers. Formerly, the taxes accumulated from the citizens were spent for performing great sacrifices as enjoined in the Vedic literature. At the present moment, however, almost all forms of sacrifice are not at all possible. Therefore, it is recommended in the Shastras that people should perform Sankirtan Yajna. Any householder, regardless of his position, can perform this Sankirtan Yajna without expenditure. All the family members can sit down together and simply clap their hands and chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Somehow or other, everyone can manage to perform this yajna and distribute prasad to the people in general. That is quite sufficient for this age of Kali. The Krishna consciousness movement is based on this principle. Chant the Hare Krishna mantra at every moment, as much as possible, both inside and outside of the temples, and as far as possible, distribute prasad. This process can be accelerated with the cooperation of state administrators and those who are producing the country's wealth. Simply by liberal distribution of prasad and sankirtan, the whole world can become peaceful and prosperous. Generally, in all the material sacrifices recommended in the Vedic literature, there are offerings to the demigods. This demigod worship is especially meant for less intelligent men. Actually, the result of such sacrifice goes to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayan. Lord Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita 5.29, Bhoktaram Yagya Tapasham. He is actually the enjoyer of all sacrifices. His name, therefore, is Yagya Purusha. Although Dhruva Maharaja was a great devotee and had nothing to do with these sacrifices, to set an example to his people, he performed many sacrifices and gave all his wealth in charity. For as long as he lived as a householder, he never spent a farthing for his sense gratification. In this verse, the word karma phal pradam is very significant. The Lord awards everyone different kinds of karma as the individual living entities desire. He is the super soul present within the heart of everyone, and he is so kind and liberal that he gives everyone full facilities to perform whatever acts one wants. then the result of the action is also enjoyed by the living entity. If anyone wants to enjoy or lord it over material nature, the Lord gives him full facilities, but he becomes entangled in the resultant reactions. Similarly, if anyone wants to engage himself fully in devotional service, the Lord gives him full facilities and the devotee enjoys the results. The Lord is therefore known as Karmafal Prada. Om Gyanantimirindasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshuranmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Different yugas have different dharma yagyas too that are prescribed and recommended, which are just suitable for that particular yuga. So in Satyuga and Treta Yuga, well, more so in Satyuga, the prescribed dharma yagya is dhyan, meditation. And in Treta Yuga, it's mostly like the ceremonial sacrifices. Of course, here we know Dhruv is performing the ceremonial sacrifices. He already became perfect in his devotional service through meditation. In Dwapara Yuga, the method is to attain perfection is through deity worship, Archana Puja, and of course, clearly mentioned here in Kali Yuga, the only yagya that can be performed is Sankirtana and distribution of prasadam. Kali Kale Dharma, Krishna Nam Sankirtana. Because Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he descended to propagate the Sankirtan Yagya, the chanting of the holy names of the Lord, because Krishna and his name are non-different. On the absolute platform, it's all one. So all Krishna has invested all his powers in his holy name. And of course, in Kali Yuga, there's, as mentioned here, Dhruva was an ideal king because he actually saw his citizens as his praja, as children, and therefore was always on the lookout for their ultimate well-being. Since he was such a Mahabhagavata devotee, all that he tried to do in his life is try and, well, enforce law and order, because as a Kshatriya, that is one of their duties, is to enforce law and order. But he performed all these great sacrifices in order that everyone could benefit. He was never interested in levying taxes just so that he could accumulate wealth and spend it all on his personal sense gratification. It was always to further benefit, in a spiritual sense, all the citizens that he ruled over. So Dhruva was exemplary in every way. And there's a saying, Yad Yad Acharati Shreshtas Tatta Deva Taro Jana. As great men act, so common people follow. So he set an ideal example. And no member from any ashram can give up performing yagyas. It's mentioned how Kshatriyas and Vaishyas, their duty is that they can accumulate wealth, but definitely not by immoral schemes. They should gain material wealth through honest means and give up 50% in charity. I was reading today about this Brahmana who was very poor, and he used to gather banana leaves and make these different little cups, and he would give 50% of anything that he earned in worship of Mother Ganges. So Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was very happy with this Brahmana and gave him all blessings. And we know that these people high up in the administration, they're so anxious to hold on to their positions through hook and crook, any means possible. There's so much corruption, you can't even begin to unravel the sort of corruption that takes place. Most citizens are completely ignorant of all this looting in the name of levying taxes that's taking place. These completely unscrupulous people, politicians, they couldn't care less about anyone else. They're just in it for themselves, as the saying goes. And we can see how there's such a disparity in wealth. that that you see in a country. It's, what is it, 1% of the world's wealthiest own, what, 60% of all the world assets. So you can see this great disparity, which you would never have really seen if you had an ideal, honest ruler who actually cared about the citizens. Anyway, this is the state of affairs in Kali Yuga. And I was just also reminded of how everybody, no matter where they're stationed, whichever varna or ashram, they have to carry out yajna. And for those in renounced order, their tapasya is that they are giving Krishna consciousness knowledge wherever they go, guiding the lower three orders. Brahmachari students, of course, they perform tapasya, and whatever they collect, they give that to their gurus. So they're training under the guru. And I wanted to ask Maharaj a question, because this, I'm not sure if I understand this correctly, but somehow I find that whenever I'm reading something, it becomes relevant with whatever we're reading in class, miraculously enough. So in Chaitanya Charitamrita, this is what it said: a material desire is explained as desire to enjoy the material world to its fullest extent. In other words, economic development. An excessive desire for economic development is like impurities in the heart, and the heart is always disturbed. Material enjoyment includes activities such as great sacrifices for auspicious or auspicious activity, charity, austerity, elevation to higher planetary systems, or living happily in the material world. This is not actions of pure devotees. But here, of course, we know Dhruv is performing sacrifices, but as I mentioned, it's all for the satisfaction of Lord Narayan. So I think this verse is talking about people that are sort of conducting these activities just for material profit. Maharaj, is that correct? Hare Krishna.
Yeah, it's rather a long question, but yes, yes, in short.
We have a question also from Praveen Krishna Prabhu. He says, Dhruva had previously desired the kingdom, and after becoming a devotee, he is suffering the consequences now. There were many nonsense desires before coming to bhakti. So will those desires affect us now? They are undesirable now.
Well, let's hope not. They have a way of sticking around. We find that we still have these subtle desires for gross or subtle desires for sense gratification that we hold on to from because of our conditioned nature. So we can just hope that Krishna may free us from these things and not reward our previous desires. That's not what we're hoping for.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Maharaj. And for our closing kirtan, I was going to see whether Krishna Kanteya Prabhu would be able to lead us in kirtan.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Nita Gaur Brahmanandi Hare Bo. Jaya Vishnupat Paramahamsa Parivrat Jagatacharya Sutta Sri Srimad His Divine Grace Jayadvaita Swami Ki Jai Jaya Vishnupat Paramahamsa Parivrat Jagatacharya Sutta Sutta Sri Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Bring say the whole Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai Jai Sri Guru and Guru Ranga all glories to the some devotees, all glories to the some devotees, all glories to the some devotees. Jai Sri Guru and Guru Ranga Nitai Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari Bol.
Hari Hari Bol. Thank you, Krishna Kanteya Prabhu, and thank you, Maharaj, and thank you, everyone, for being here. Hare Krishna. Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, His Holiness Jayadvaita Swami Maharaj Ki Jai.
Hare Krishna.
Namaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Gaur Premanande.
Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol.
Thank you, Krishna Kantiya Prabhu. And thank you, Akendra Prabhu. Thank you all.
Jai.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Namaste. Ki Jai.
Oh, and Namaidasi from the UK. Thank you.